The priorities of this project were to address two coarse coal refuse piles on either side of Coal Creek that had been placed here in the 20s and 30s, some into the 40s, along the side of the creek. And we had hired ATC Group Services over the past several years to do surface water and groundwater studies, and we determined that there was quite a bit of surface water infiltration through the piles as well as groundwater infiltration, which then made its way into Coal Creek and created a acid loading in Coal Creek on its way to the Wabash River, which is not very far downstream from here. So after many considerations of how to deal with the surface and the groundwater flow through the piles, we considered possibly picking up the piles and moving them elsewhere up away from the creek to limit the water moving through the piles. That was quite cost prohibitive, so in consultation with ATC Group Services, a decision was made on the design to place a geomembrane liner over the top and limit the surface water infiltration. The geomembrane liner that we selected to use is plastic material that's welded together to make sure it's watertight and doesn't allow any water to enter the gob pile. The geomembrane option was selected. It limited the area of disturbance required for the project, and it therefore was a lot more cost effective. There weren't too many unusual circumstances with the reclamation design on using the geomembrane liner. It's been done before, generally covering coarse refuse piles with borrow material and a system of diversion ditches and down drains to get the water off of the pile. With the addition of the geomembrane liner, that allowed us to make it just that much more watertight. And the one unusual thing we used was the Fleximat ditch to help get the water down off the pile without having to excavate too deep to place hefty duty riprap in the ditches. The total project area was approximately 37 acres, taking into account the gob piles as well as staging areas and borrow areas that were required to cover the gob piles. Of that 37 acres, there was 7 acres of geomembrane liner placed on the north hill and 2 acres placed on the south hill. One of the design decisions we made with the help of ATC Group Services was to just cover the flattest slopes on top of the piles where the infiltration would be the greatest, and then where the slopes were steeper along the sides, not cover them because the water would move off the pile well enough there. There were some erosion areas along the sides of the piles that is part of the project here that we had to rework and recover. There was a lot of exposed refuse generating acid water heading into Coal Creek. The on-site effectiveness of the design on this project was pretty much right where we were shooting for. We were wanting to limit the infiltration of the water and the acid generation heading into Coal Creek enough so that hopefully we could construct a passive treatment system on the downstream portion of the project in the future once we had a better handle on the what kind of water quality we were dealing with, and actually get it to a treatable level. One of the lessons we learned on this project was this was the first time we had used Fleximat ditch liner, and we learned basically with the gob pile and the diversion berms and getting it into the down drain between Indiana AML, ATC Group Services, Fleximat, and our contractor Ryan Kearns Excavating. We really learned a lot on working with those transitions and worked a lot of kinks out and dealing with it on such a steep slope with high velocities.